Welcome to another super special episode of Fearless Rebel Radio. This is episode number 68, and I am back with Sarah Vance. Part two of where we left off. And if you're wondering where we left off, you can go and check out part one, which is episode 66. Let me just confirm that. 66, which you can find at summerinnanen.com/FRR-66. Oh, 65. My apologies. I'm not going to edit that. We're just going to correct it, and it's episode 65. Go and check that out. That's where we started off. We talked about the messy middle parts of our journey. And before we get started with today, Sarah, why don't you just give another brief intro to who you are in case people missed the last one?
Yeah, so obviously my name is Sarah Vance. I'm also a body image and self-esteem coach that helps women get off of the diet cycle and step into their radiant badass selves and let go of all or nothing perfection and let go of self-doubt to just be who they are and allow that to be enough in the world. So
yay! And we're recording this one in video again as well. So if you want to check out the video, you can go to summerinnanen.com/FRR-68, or it will also be on my YouTube channel there, which is awesome, or you can find it on Sarah's website as well. I am super excited to do this again because we are celebrating big things today.
Yeah.
We're celebrating that our retreat as of this recording date is halfway sold out, which is incredible since we only have 15 spots available, and it's in May of 2017, which is, enough time to birth a baby between now and then. There's enough time to birth a baby between now and then. If you're wondering about the retreat, let's chat about it a bit. Sarah, do you want to chat?
Yeah, so the Reclaim Retreat is taking place in La Jolla, California, next year, May 2017. I believe it is through the 5th through the 6th, I believe the dates specifically. You can find out more at the reclaimretreat.com. But basically, this is a 2-day event where badass women just come and we talk about a lot of the stuff that Summer and I talk about. We are going to be, breaking societal rules, talking about how to let go of self-doubt and stepping into the person that you are, and just there's going to be so much fun. There's going to be dance parties and some in-depth conversations. So it's going to be a really good balance between having fun and personal growth. And it really is going to be a life-changing experience, not only for anybody that comes, but I think Summer and I can say that it will be for us as well. So we're both looking forward to it. And the women that are signing up so far seem to be really, really amazing women. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can contest to that, and I will just say, this whole thing is about transformation and just treating yourself as well, because La Jolla is such a beautiful place, and we are holding this at this amazing cottage that has some ocean views and a fire pit, and so it's really, really beautiful. It's not going to be like we're sitting in some kind of conference room space. Yeah, that's not what we're doing here. We really wanted to make this to fit both of our values and our vibes. And so, you can get all the details at reclaimretreat.com. It's going to be awesome. It's I've done some 2- and 3-day workshops before, and it's really amazing how much transformation can happen in 2 days when you are around other people who are inspiring you and getting that kind of coaching, and just to hang out with women who get it, and hang out with us because we're fun.
And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things is sometimes in this journey and in this movement, you can feel a little bit alone. Even though might be some online communities, it's totally different when you really are in the presence of other people that are on the same page as you and talking about the same stuff. And it's really just a powerful experience all around when you're in it.
Yeah, totally. And so last time on episode 65, we talked about our stories, and we really went into the messy middle part of our journey because I know for myself and Sarah, you've said this as well, it's just that, you know, we often talk about like where we were and now like where we are, but it was that kind of that piece in between that a lot of people are curious about is just, you know, like how did you get from point A to point B? Like what did that actually feel like for you? What were some of the struggles and sticking points that came up and how did you overcome them? And so I think we did a good job of talking about that in detail last time. Originally, our agenda was to talk about self-doubt and confidence as well. And we didn't get to it because we spent so much time just talking about the other part. And we also spent a bunch of time talking about what it means to actually, like, quote unquote, love your body. And I use that in quotations because I think that that's just sort of like the acceptable, like well-known term for that, but we sort of blew that up and said like, okay, here's what it really is and here's how it feels for each of us. So today we want to talk about self-doubt and confidence and address some of the questions that we get asked a lot on this and talk about it from our personal experiences because you know, we would be total frauds if we stood up here and said, we feel confident all the time and I don't get any self-doubt. Like it's, at least for me. And, you know?
Yeah, that would be a load of bullshit if I said that to anyone. Because it's impractical. It really is impractical to even think that, you know, when you let go of self-doubt in reference to your body, that you're never going to experience it in your body about your body, but not experience it in other aspects of your life. So, yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest misconceptions, I think, is self-doubt is still present. It's just a matter that you know how to handle it in different ways.
Yeah, so why don't you talk about the type of self-doubt maybe you used to have and the kind of self-doubt that you have now? Like what's different? How does it show up for you now? Like what are your little, you know, I call them your doppelgangers, but you may call them something else. Like, what do they say to you?
Yeah, I call mine my inner mean girl. And the reason why I chose the inner mean girl is because, you know, when we look at self-doubt really is there to protect us. So initially, when I first started on this journey, you know, my self-doubt, my inner mean girl would pop up in reference to my body. So it could have been, looking back on it, there could be other stuff happening in my life that would make me feel uncomfortable, that I would have, you know, self-doubt about, but I would always reflect back onto my body. Like it was always about me, no matter what the issue was. If it was about my job, my relationship, you know, friendship, just life in general, all that would just reflect right back onto myself and specifically with my body. And I think that's really common with women, especially, is that we use self-doubt and self-judgment and reflect it back onto ourselves versus seeing it as something greater than who we are or, you know, something else besides ourselves, because we have been thought to believe that, well, if we just fix our body or whatever it may be, that, you know, we'll be able to fix this other issue. So it really used to show up in reference to my body. So just showing up in the world, period, as who I am, and then allowing myself to kind of relax around food. That was one of the biggest things that kept me in this diet cycle, in this body shame and, you know, poor self-esteem, was self-doubt. Because anytime that we would step out of your comfort zone, you're going to experience self-doubt. And that could be really, really scary initially. Like I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to deal with overcoming or bravely and courageously facing fears and moving through that. So it really, you know, listening to that self-doubt or my inner mean girl kept me really in this box that I didn't want to be in. Like I wanted to go out and like experience the world, but, you know, self-doubt is what kept me there. So, you know, like I said earlier, your inner mean girl is there to protect you. And I think that's why I call it a girl, is because it's like a child. I mean, she really is a small child that when you get down to it, you just kind of need to, you know, coddle them and like say, you know, compassionately, like work with them and say, okay, what's really going on here? So as far as self-doubt now, it's completely different. I really don't experience it much in reference to my body, but it still does pop up every once in a while. Like it popped up maybe, I think about 2 or 3 months ago, or maybe a month ago. I don't remember. But now I can recognize it for what it is. And it doesn't spin me into the rabbit hole of like, really self-loathing, trying to go back on the diet cycle, like that stuff is done. I can call it for what it is and become really curious and aware of like, why is this showing up? And what can I do to not have it show up again, if possible? And then compassionately know how to deal with it to kind of get me back on the path that I want to be on. So it no longer like knocks me off the path and like, I'm like, where the hell am I? I'm now in this rabbit hole trying to dig my way out. Now I can just be like, okay, I see this popping up. So what the fuck is going on? Like, let's talk to myself here. Like, what is going on? And being able to recognize it. And now, you know, self-doubt, it doesn't pop up as much, like I said, in reference to my body, but it pops up in different areas of my life. One of the biggest things I would have to be very honest here is with my business. That is probably the biggest thing where self-doubt pops up, is getting really uncomfortable with my business and allowing myself to be put out into the world with not only my story, but helping other people and, you know, interacting with other people, with other entrepreneurs. It's really challenging to be an entrepreneur. And I would say that's where my self-doubt probably has manifested the most in my life at this point. But again, if you use curiosity, for me at least, I've been able to kind of recognize it and work through that and not allow self-doubt to keep me playing small in the world. Yeah. What about you? Like, how is it, like, how is self-doubt, you know, manifest now, and how do you feel about it? Like, what are your stance on it?
Yeah, so I mean, I can echo so much of what you said, you know, that it was always about my body. It was always like reflective of, you know, other things that people had said to me, and just, you know, this way that I deflected other emotions, you know, like I call it like emotional weight fixation. It was just, you know, I was always like super self-conscious and shy underneath the surface, even though, you know, a lot of people would probably say like, what, you know, and I would prefer to like quit at things than to try them, just to avoid criticism and judgment. And you know, that manifested in particular with my body. And so I've done so much work on this. Like I've done so much of my own inner work on self-doubt, because to me, it's like such a huge piece of the puzzle. Like you know, it's so much about our mindset, right? And so, yes. And our mindset, like the negative voice is really just, it's self-doubt. And so learning how to manage that has been super, super critical. And so, you know, slowly it just started to go away. You know, like I just realized, I was like, oh, I don't think that about my body anymore. Like, or I haven't like thought that about myself anymore. Or like, I just don't care anymore. Which is really cool, but it rears its head big time for me in a similar way, which is my business, which makes a lot of sense, because that's where I'm constantly pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, and that's where a lot of the fear exists in my life today. Aside from when I'm going to like do stuff that makes me challenge my fear of heights, which I get like a ton of self-doubt about as well. It's the same thing. Yeah. But anytime we're facing fears, like anytime we're stepping into our comfort zone, it really acts up. And so what I've had to do for me personally is like accept that, and almost like acknowledge that like I'm constantly going to kind of feel like I'm not good enough because I'm doing all these really amazing things. Like I can't have one without the other, you know, like it's like, I heard a girl say once, she said, the bigger the dream, the louder the scream. And I couldn't agree more. Like in order for me to express what I feel is, you know, my purpose, which is, you know, to empower women to be who they are and just take up space and like blow up this bullshit that is diet culture. Like in order for me to do that, and in order for me then like also to live a life that's aligned to my values, where like I'm able to have like freedom, and I'm able to, you know, tend to myself from like a caring perspective in terms of, you know, setting boundaries so that I can honor my values. Like all of those things ignite self-doubt in me. you know?
Yes.
So for me, it's like, it's been so much more of like just an acknowledgement of it instead of like thinking like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. I acknowledge it as this force that means I'm actually living my purpose and honoring my values.
I was just getting ready to say, like, now, so when self-doubt used to pop up in the past, it would be very like paralyzing for me. It would be
Yes.
paralyzing. Like I would be like like a deer in the headlights, like just paralyzed, shut down. Nope, not doing it. Not going to even try. Now when I feel that self-doubt popping up, I'm like, okay, like let's do this. Like this is like, I know something big is going to happen. Like I know this is what I want to do. This is what's going to push me not only from a personal standpoint and my personal growth, but just like living out my purpose. Like it's odd to say, but it's almost like I look forward to when it pops up because I'm like, aha, like this is it. This is what I need to do. So it's funny because I just celebrated a birthday, and usually on my birthdays, I have a major time of reflection. And last year I was talking about embracing, and this year it was talking about, kind of like shaking shit up, because I when I get comfortable, I'm like, okay, you know what? I used to be really happy about being very comfortable, just like always being comfortable, safe, not wanting to step outside of my own boundaries. And this year I'm like, let's break some boundaries. You know what? Like I felt safe. And so it's time to let's break it. And self-doubt's going to pop up and like, bring it on. You know what I mean? Like bring it on. I know how to deal with it, but it just means that you are growing as a human being and you're stepping out of your comfort zone. So when you have that, if you're used to having it paralyze you, don't, because it really is, it's kind of like a weird blessing to have it show up, because you're like, oh, okay, this is me actually taking action and doing the things that are going to help me get to where I want to go.
Yeah, and I would say, I think for a lot of people, especially when they're accepting their bodies, it gets worse before it gets better, because you are pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. Like at least if you're working with one of us, because we're pushing you to stop hiding. And like self-doubt is really just this mechanism to keep you like quote unquote safe. It's like our hiding strategy. And so, when you like start to play more unsafe and stop hiding and like put yourself vulnerable to judgments, vulnerable to criticism, which you can't protect yourself from completely anyways, because you can't control what other people think. But it tends to like fire up more. And so I think it's like, it is kind of like this paradigm shift, is that instead of thinking like, okay, I need to avoid it, or like, oh my God, I'm still experiencing it, like, what am I doing wrong? Think like, all right, like what am I maybe doing right? Like, like, or what do I need to do? Like, what is this telling me? Like, what is this resistance? Like, where resistance is, usually that is where we need to go, like that's where like our power is. And so, it's about just changing the way that we interpret it, and offering that piece of ourselves, like you said, compassion. Like I think for a lot of people, I mean, self-doubt is really just this manifestation of all the words that have been slung at us, either by other people or society. And because you're not born with it. Babies don't wake up thinking, not wake up, but come into this world like hating themselves, like those are all it's all just like language that we've attached emotions to, and these stories that we've attached to them. And so, kind of understanding, if there was like this pivotal moment in your life where maybe like you were the most vulnerable or the most self-conscious, or you were really hurt, like if you can just picture that piece of you. And sometimes I'll even have clients like have a picture of themselves from when they were a kid, or from a time when they felt like particularly ashamed or hurt. And this doesn't work for everybody, because I understand that sometimes like there's like trauma attached to that. And so, that this is definitely not for everyone. But if this feels safe for you, like if you almost like have this picture of that kid, like how are you going to respond to it? Because if you think about a child who's hurting and saying like, I don't want to do it, I'm too scared, I don't want to do that, like people are going to make fun of me, people are going to judge me, would you angrily like tell that kid to shut up? Like probably not going to help. Or would you try to like logically argue with that child? Like probably not going to help. Like what the kid needs is compassion, and like it's going to be okay, like everything's fine, you can do this. And it's this exact same thing with yourself. And so I think that, for me, it's like yeah, I'm constantly tapping into that compassionate piece of myself, to try to manage it. So, and then I have a coach that I meet with monthly, and it's like we like hash this shit out. Like it's like, and it helps to have someone like help me see the ridiculousness of it and help to like reframe it and see it a different way. But and I have other people that I reach out to when it gets like really overwhelming. But what do you do to manage it?
Yeah, so compassion, I think, is like number one, without a doubt, is how you kind of reel that shit in and like learn how to like untangle it. 100%. Compassion is so vital in this entire journey. Not only compassionate for yourself, but also to other people, and allowing that to kind of reflect back and forth, because the more compassion you have for others, the more you have for yourself. But how I deal with those situations when they pop up is I call it for what it is and I speak on it. A lot of these things, like your inner mean girl or your self-critic or, your evil doppelganger, they all love silence. They love silence. They love staying silent, and the shame around it, they just love it. That's when they will fester and they will grow and their power will continue and continue. So for me, and how I always talk with my clients, call it out, talk to somebody, write it out, or just say it out loud to yourself. Like, aha, this is how I'm feeling. Like I'm scared right now. I'm fearful that, somebody will judge me, or, I'm fearful of, failure or success, whatever it may be. But calling it out and breaking that silence, I think, can do really wonders. And then trying to like, be like, okay, again, how would you deal with this? For me, like an inner mean girl. So you're talking about a girl, a child. How would you talk to somebody if this was somebody else that you loved? If it was your child, your significant other, how would you deal with them in this situation? And then try to like bring that and embody it, and remember to do it for yourself, and be like, okay, so just like you said, that self-talk. Okay, you know what? Like, you are feeling scared. I understand where you're coming from, but do you really know, like, that your worst case scenario is, do you really know that's going to happen? What are some of the positives that could come out of this? Because we're so quick to think like our worst case scenario, right? Like, this is the worst thing that's going to happen to me, but we are so forgetful of like all this other shit that could possibly happen that's really amazing. So calling it out, being compassionate towards yourself, and of course, talking to somebody, and then reframing it and trying to see it in a different light, besides like just this negative aspect that is so paralyzing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it gets easier the more you kind of repeat a certain like action, right? Like, I talk about this in terms of, like wearing, I'm gonna break this out, like wearing shorts or something like that. Like that used to be like a really, that was where I had a lot of self-doubt around that. Like, and I just wouldn't wear like shorts. And so I just was like, fuck it, I'm going to wear shorts, 'cause like it's hot and like I want to wear shorts. and so, like that was hard for me for a while, like a while. And then it would get quieter and quieter and quieter. And the more I did it, and the more I realized, like, okay, I still have a pulse. I'm still breathing. Like, no one's like throwing anything at me. Like,
your world didn't float around you.
Yeah, then
your worst case scenario usually doesn't happen. Like,
yeah, exactly.
9 times out of 10, it doesn't happen.
Exactly. And so with that, then it just like slowly disappeared, and I wear shorts like all the time, and it's not a big deal at all. And it's the same thing now with areas where I feel self-doubt. Like if I'm like, oh, I'm afraid to like, reach out to somebody, or I'm afraid to like really speak my mind on my blog or on my podcast or somewhere else. Or I'm really afraid to share my story. Like the more that I do it, the more that those certain pieces get easier and easier. It's like public speaking. I think a lot of people can relate to this in if we relate it to, if we use like public speaking as an example. Like you do it and you're terrified, and then you keep doing it and you keep practicing, and it gets easier and easier, and you feel so much more comfortable. So if you think about like all the things you want to do where self-doubt is holding you back, maybe think about it like you have in relation to something else that you've overcome or done before, whether it is public speaking or maybe like going after a particular degree at school or going after a promotion or managing people at work. Like, we have all these abilities and these skills and these amazing things that like somehow just like fly out the window when the voice of self-doubt comes in. Yeah. It's like the only thing you hear in flashing lights is like not good enough, good enough. Like, and it's like, wait a minute, like you have so much proof that like that's not true as well. And I think it's like you said, like we focus so much on the negative. Like the negative is like the tidal wave that just takes away any kind of positive. And it's like, wait a minute, like what's actually possible here if you do this thing? Like what does that mean for you? And what will that mean for you going forward?
And then also I think, even if something quote unquote bad did happen, right? Like someone did say something or you did fail, quote unquote fail, whatever you want to reference that at. I don't really believe in failure. But if something like that, you still learn from that experience. So you still grow from it and become resilient, and you can still pick yourself back up and be like, okay, maybe this didn't work, but what did I learn? And let me try again and figure it out. You know what I mean? So either way, like there's still some type of positive, I think, that can come out of it. Even if your worst case scenario really did maybe possibly happen, but usually that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It's just where your mind goes. And it's what keeps people playing small and staying small in the world. And that is not what we're about. So
yeah. Like owning your power is scary. Like, like receiving your own magnificence is really scary. Receiving joy is scary. Like there's a lot of vulnerability that goes with that stuff too. And, I think like ultimately, like, especially when we talk about like working with clients, like our clients come to us because they want to be free of, like the body drama or the food drama, because they want this better life for themselves. And it's just so important to recognize that like that you're going to be pushed outside your comfort zone, and like self-doubt's going to be along for the ride. But like, wow, like what's possible? Like what is the outcome? What can the outcome be if you are free of the food woes and the body woes? Like how awesome are the possibilities by being free of that stuff? And like what can you actually accomplish? Like one of the coolest things for me is when like the women I work with, like especially more recently, like because having just wrapped up like Rock Your Body, but some of them are like, I went after like the promotion that I never would have done before, or like I was able to quit one of my jobs that I was doing because it's like I was doing that just to please other people and not for myself. Like I'm like, whoa, like who knew that stuff was going to come out of like body image work? But it's just like, it's like really, it once you kind of overcome the body woes and the food stuff, you really can then get connected to like, who am I? What do I want? And like, where has that not been showing up for me? Because I've been deflecting like this unhappiness back onto my body. Right. And now that like I can overcome that, like I can do all of these like cool things that go beyond just not hating your body anymore.
Yeah. That's just how, like, it's a side effect, you know what I mean? Because we avoid and we deflect and, we don't like being vulnerable. Like, we don't. As a culture and a society, we don't like, because we associate it so much with a weakness, and it's not. So being vulnerable is really uncomfortable. Sometimes it doesn't feel great, like, and so that's what keeps us so trapped. And then we just revert back to ourselves, and it reflects back into our body image. So when you really unlock all this stuff, typically what we see is that it's something way more, like it's a way deeper thing than just what's going on with your body. It's just that is what has been distracting. So when you let that go, it's like, oh, I can see clearly now, like this is all the stuff that's going on. And now I can handle it. Like I might not feel amazing. I might not feel 100% confident. I might not feel like gung-ho, like let's do this, but I know I can handle that. Like I can handle whatever comes my way.
Yeah, and that I think is just like, what you just said there is acceptance, right? It's just like, it's acceptance of what is. It's like, and acceptance is really just like, here's my reality, and you're not always going to like it. And that includes your body. Like, you don't have to necessarily like your body to have body acceptance. And it's accepting like, okay, I accept that I have self-doubt, or I accept that I have fear, instead of thinking there's something wrong with you because you have those things. Like, I think a lot of, and you can speak to this too, but like one of the stumbling blocks I see with people who have started to do this work for a little while is they get mad at themselves when self-doubt still shows up for them, or they get upset that like that's still happening. Like, they think there's something wrong with them, or that they're failing at it. Yeah. And like, I think the most important thing we want to say with this is that like, it never goes away completely. And, in order for you to live this life that you want, like, it's just going to be this ever-present force, like, think of yourself as like a tortured artist. You're just always going to be, like, the more that I like start to identify myself as like a tortured artist, the more I'm just like, oh, here we go. Like, like, I'm constantly just like in my own head, but then I can like see the ridiculousness of it, and just, and then it's not like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Or like, it's not necessarily like real. I just kind of accept that that's there. And then go and do what I want to do anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's going to show up. It just becomes, I think, less and less. And then the loudness of it becomes less and less too. Like, it might be there, but you can just be like, okay, like this, I get it. Like, I hear you, like, totally recognize what's going on. Yes, I'm feeling some self-doubt right now. I see it. I'm feeling it. And I'm not going to listen. So, I mean, it really is like that inner rebel in you, where you're like, I see it and I hear you, but nope, not today. Like, nope, not today. Bye. And you move forward. And moving forward, in all honesty, like taking that action and going against what self-doubt is telling you. So taking that action and stepping forward or out, whatever you want to say, is, in all honesty, how you start to silence that. That is how you silence it. So when you listen to it, it's going to be amplified. Like, it's going to continue to have its power. Like, it will remain the powerful source. And the way to really strip the power away from it is by stepping out and going against it and being like, I see you and I hear you. I recognize why you're showing up. And you don't even have to understand it completely why it's showing up. You don't have to like work it all down and figure out why. But if you just don't listen and say, you know what, I hear you, but I'm going to do this anyway. I'm going to do it. That's how it's like, oh shit, like, she's not listening. Oh, okay, I'm going to go over here and be quiet, because clearly the power is not mine anymore. Clearly it's hers. It's who you are is now showing up in the world. It's not your inner mean girl. It's not this your self, doubt, your inner critic, your evil doppelganger. That is the forefront. It's now you. And you are the one that's showing up in the world. And that's what I think you and I both want for people, is just who they are deep within to just show up. And that's kind of, for me at least, that's what I've noticed, is when you stop listening over here, that power starts to fade. And this one, you start to get amplified in who you are.
Yeah. Let's talk about judgments, because I know fear of judgment is probably one of the biggest underlying factors in the voice of self-doubt. Like, that's, if we're going to talk about like the fears that actually feed the voice of self-doubt and resistance, fear of judgment. And I get asked a lot, like, how do you overcome judgment, or how do you overcome fear of judgment? And so, I'll let you go first in terms of what you want to say about that.
So my experience with fear of judgment, first and foremost, that's completely out of your control. If someone's going to judge you, it's completely out of your control. And I think that is one of the things that, through this process is a lot of surrendering to this idea of being able to control everything. Like, you're not going to make everyone happy. You're not going to be everyone's, unicorn, is what I like to say. Like, people are going to judge you. You're open to judgment no matter what. You could try to avoid being judged and somebody's still going to judge you, like, no matter what. So that is something I think that we have to really understand. Like, if you try to be perfect, people are going to judge you on doing that. Like, no matter what, someone's going to have an opinion. They're going to have an opinion. You cannot avoid it. Now, one thing that I think is important is to understand, is it fear of judgment? So are you judging yourself and reflecting that back and saying, well, they're going to judge me, but in reality, you're judging your own self? Because that is one way that the inner critic will show up, is when you are reflecting on what you think about yourself onto others and mind reading. It's one of the biggest tricks that it does is mind read. And so I think it's important to ask, like, are you judging yourself? And then again, tap into that compassion again, and try to understand, like, is this something that I value? Is it aligning with my value system? And then also, oh shoot, I was going to say something. I lost my train of thought. Okay, you let me know what you think. And then if I think of it, I'll pop in, I'll chime in. Because I was on a tangent.
Maybe it was like, hate is gonna hate.
Right. Like, it really is. It's like, who, like, when I just want to say, like, who the fuck cares? Like,
yeah.
That's what it was. Like, is this if somebody judges you, is it a judgment that you value? Yeah. Like, do you value their opinion? And is it really going to matter 2-3 years from now? Like, does it really play that much of a factor in your life? Mm-hmm. Probably not. And the people that you do value their opinion, they're probably not going to be judgmental in the sense of what you think. Like, and you don't have to abide by their rules. Like, this is your life.
Yeah, the first thing I tell people, you know, when they're afraid of judgments, I'm like, do you actually have proof? Like, are these people saying these things to you? Or are these just like, this is like the story that you're telling yourself? Because like, we're all like amazing fiction writers.
Yeah, and we're mind readers too. We're mind readers. Like, we know what everyone is thinking.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, like, I think there's a really good simple book called The Four Agreements, and you know, one of the agreements is like, don't trust assumptions. And so I think it's like, you know, I always say, like, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Like, is it an assumption? And if so, like, okay, like, acknowledge, like, I'm assuming this, you know? And I think that's a really important distinction. And it's like, if it is an assumption, like, acknowledging that it's an assumption, and acknowledging that those assumptions, like you said, generally come from beliefs that we're holding about ourselves. And so, like, approaching that with an attitude of curiosity, like, why do I think that? Like, why do I think other people are thinking that? You know, what is there, you know, what's the criticism that I'm fearing the most? Like, that's a really good prompt to get you to understand, like, what that belief is about yourself that you're holding in, that maybe hasn't always been, like, crystal clear for you. Or just acknowledging that that's the belief, and then that's the voice of self-doubt, and working through that in the same way that we talked about. And then the other side of it is, like, yeah, what if people are actually judging you? Like, what if it's not an assumption? What if you are right? And then, you know, it's like, like you said, like, we can't control what other people think, you know, and letting go of the things that we can't control, and then managing our expectations accordingly. Like, all right, I'm going to go and do this thing, and I know that other people may be looking at me and may be judging me, but, like, so therefore, you know, like, I'm going to manage my expectation on that experience, that maybe it is going to feel a little self-conscious, but I'm going to do it anyways. Or maybe it is going to feel vulnerable and uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyways. You know, like, right. We can choose to hide and, like, protect ourselves from the haters, like the quote unquote haters, or we can choose to, you know, take our independence back and face a bit of emotional discomfort that comes with judgment that may actually happen, you know, or criticism that may actually happen. But I think, like, one of the most important things I learned, you know, and Tara Moore writes about this in Playing Big, is that, like, criticism doesn't tell you anything about you. It only gives you information about the people giving the criticism. So, right. You know, if somebody thinks that you are, like, unattractive, or if somebody thinks that you eat too much, you know, what information does that give you about that person? You know, that they have their own insecurities or issues or fat phobic beliefs, or, you know, they're really bought into diet culture. Like, and do you value people with those opinions? Like, do you even want to receive that information and take it? Right. you don't have to. It's your choice whether you accept feedback or criticism or not, And so, again, like, I don't want to say that, like, this is going to absolve you of emotional discomfort, because, like, yeah, criticism still hurts. Like, when people criticize me, like, it still hurts because I'm human. And so instead of trying to avoid that, which would mean, like, hiding, it's like accepting that, like, okay, like, sometimes I'm going to be hurt, and it's okay to just be with that hurt and acknowledge, like, all right, it's because I'm human and being criticized hurts, but that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. That doesn't change, like, that I'm enough, And so I think that, again, coming back to, like, using compassion as, like, your greatest weapon against this stuff.
Yeah. And I also think that it's important, with judgment, just like you said, when other people judge us or you, that is a reflection of their own issues. And so I think it's important to be aware of where you are judging others, because it can give you a lot of awareness of the shit that you need to work on. Like, if you're judging someone else for this, then, like, first of all, that's none of your business, right? Like, none of your business. But what is that, like, why do you care? Like, why do you care? Like, why is that bothering you? Like, that, it's a really good way to become aware and curious about, like, oh, I don't like that this person's doing this, and I'm like X, Y, and Z. Okay, what's going on with me? Like, versus
Yes.
like reflecting out. Like, it's important. I think it gives you a lot of awareness to be like, oh, okay, this is clearly my issue.
Yes.
And that took a little bit for me to, like, recognize, like, when I would have an issue with somebody, because I was like, I'm this, I don't have a problem with anybody, and then, like, oh shit, like, I got to call myself out on some bullshit here, because no, this is my issue. This is not their issue. This is my issue, and why is it showing up? And let me work through it myself, because this is my problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I hear you, like, 110% on that. It's like, when I react to something, it means one of two things generally. It means, one, like, it's telling me something about my values. Like, so if I get angry at something, or something really pisses me off, it's giving me, it's stepped on my values somehow. Like, if I could think of an example with this, it would be, like, I really value, like, time. Like, time to me is, like, something I really value. And so if someone is, like, wasting my time or disrespecting my time, I get, like, super triggered by it. And instead of thinking there's something wrong with them, I just think to myself, like, okay, like, it's because I value time, and, like, they're stepping on that value for me. But that's just, like, my own stuff. And, like, yes, sometimes whatever, maybe they are at fault, but that's not really the point. It gives me information about myself. And then the second piece of this just goes back to, like you said, like, coming back to beliefs that we have about ourselves. Like, if I'm, like, find myself, like, comparing myself to other women, or if I'm, like, on social media and I get, like, oh, like, or, like, ew, like, because that still happens. Yeah, like, it does. I'm just like, what is this telling me about myself? Like, why am I getting, like, either jealous or envious or uncomfortable with this situation? Like, what are they doing that I don't believe about myself, or that I, that is just misaligned to my belief system?
What's the story? Like, what's the story you're saying?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? And then when you find out that story, like, asking yourself, A, is this something that I value? Like, is this even true? Or is this a load of crap that my inner critic's playing on me? And B, is this something that actually aligns with my value system? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's important to know the story behind it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, this shows up a lot in the comparison game. Like, you'll see somebody who's, like, quote unquote doing, like, better than you, and, like, that's often where we start, like, comparing ourselves and getting angry or frustrated or jealous or envious or any of those emotions. And I think it's just indicative of, like, okay, what expectations are you actually putting on yourself, or what is it about that like you want but you're afraid of, like, or what they're doing that you're actually just, like, hiding from or afraid of or resisting, so I think it's, like, And I'm not saying like it's really easy to identify these things and then just be like, oh, that's it, and work through it, and I'm good, and I just like ripped off the Band-Aid, and I don't have to deal with that ever again. Like, that's not what it's like at all. It's just like, I think, like, if I were to sum up what we're both saying is like just starting to become like really like in tune and curious with our thoughts and our emotions and like our reactions to things, and then just being like super curious as to like, like, why is that happening? Or like, what does that say about me? Or like, why do I care so much? And because sometimes people will email me and they'll be like, I'm upset about this, or I'm confused about this, and I think they probably hate me because I'll write back and I'll be like, I'll be like, well, what does that tell you about you? And they're like, what? Like, it's not the answer they wanted. I'm like, what's up with you caring so much about that? And like, I'm just like, I don't mean to be, I'm not being rude about it, but I'm just like, that's really what the question comes down to, is like, what's up with you caring so much about it?
Right. Like, what does that mean to you? It's one of my favorite things to say, like, okay, so what does that mean to you? You know what I mean? And then on top of becoming curious, again, it's like curiosity and compassion are like so important to like question everything is how I kind of like live. Like, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then try to compassionately handle it. So.
And fear can't exist in the presence of those two things.
Absolutely. 100%. I think that's one of the things that I think when people start to take action in this journey, it is scary. Like, I'll be the first one to say it's fucking scary because it's something completely different. And it's going to be there, but that doesn't mean that you're not safe. And it doesn't mean that you can't overcome the fear, like, be brave and courageous to face it. Like, you are in the fire and you will survive. Like, you really will. So. Yeah.
We wouldn't be doing this work if we didn't believe that you were capable of it. Like, to be honest, like, I don't think you recognize, not you, Sarah, but like you listening, don't recognize your own power,
Right.
Like to recognize that, like, you do have the courage, you do have the strength, like, and like, we see that in you. Like, we see you as these like completely resourceful, incredible, powerful women that just are letting the shit inside your head stop you from seeing that in yourself. And so, like, I know maybe I'm just going into like a Tony Robbins speech here, but like, I just think that I just want people to know that, like, I want people to know that. I want people to realize that I'm not, I do think this is for everyone, like, I don't think there's people out there who can't have these types of, transformations, whatever that looks like. Because no one's is going to look exactly like mine or exactly like yours, Sarah. Like, everyone's kind of transformation looks differently depending on their environment and their situation and the things they've experienced and all that other shit. But like, everyone can transform and come into this place where they like recognize that you're good enough, and you don't need to be putting these like crazy expectations on yourself. But I don't even know where this came from. I just felt like compelled to say that.
That's okay. I think it's important to say, because we do believe it. Like, we believe so much in our clients and the women that we work with, like the women in your group, the emails that we get, we fully believe in them way before they believe in themselves. Like, we believe it. Like, we know you're courageous. We know that you're powerful. It's just a matter of like, we just want to like reach inside of you and like grab it and be like, come out, like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I wish I could do. Like, just reach through and just grab you, like, grab that person that's just like under all this bullshit and just like grab you and be like, all right, now show up. Like, you're good. You're good enough. Like, you are whole just as you are. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's how
I just
it is.
like have this vision of like this huge pile of like manure, because bullshit, and then like you and I just like digging through it and like pulling people out and like like hosing them down and like pushing them off a cliff and being like, go, you've got this.
Yeah. Have your wings, you'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. We got you.
That's what we're gonna do at the retreat.
Yeah. That's what the retreat's going to be about, in case anyone was wondering. Like, that's it.
But let's as we're coming to a close here, like, let's actually revisit that a little bit. Like, so the early bird sign up, which I don't think we mentioned before, but that closes on August 9th, and that gives you an opportunity to save some dollars on the retreat. So, yeah, make it rain for yourself. That is something that you definitely want to check out. So again, go to reclaimretreat.com. We are recording this probably, I think if my math is correct, at least 2 weeks before this is going to go live. So as of today, it's halfway sold out.
Yes.
Raise the retreat roof. Again, Thursday, May 4th to Saturday, May 6th. So it's like 2 days and three nights. We're taking 15 people, La Jolla, San Diego, and it's really like a weekend of transformation. So much of the stuff that we've been talking about is what we're going to be doing with you, but on a very like personal level and in a way that like does shake you up and like pull you out of the bullshit. And, but in like a really supportive, fun way. And I mean, like, I don't think there's any other better way to like treat yourself than to go to something like this. Like, do something for yourself, and it's just like, it's gonna be
such
beautiful.
An act of self-love, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, like, we don't do a lot of live events because you know, we both like work more on the interwebs, so this is like a huge opportunity to actually get like up close and real with us. And yeah, I'm excited to see how tall you are, Sarah, because I have this vision that you're like 5'11".
You are going to be wildly disappointed, my friend. Because I am not even close to that. So.
You know how like you see people on TV and you think they're so much taller than they are?
I have a feeling I'm saying you're like 5'8". No.
Maybe in like certain shoes. Like maybe in stilts.
Hilarious.
Oh my God.
So it's going to be so fun just in general to meet everybody and like just be in the presence of, it's going to be like, the vibe is going to be so powerful. Like, it's going to be amazing. Like, I cannot wait. And, you know, Summer and I have been buddies for over a year now, I think. So this will be our first time, like, embracing each other. And I'm going to, like, probably bite her face off with kisses. But, you know, that's a whole nother story. So
I'm going to hump your leg, like, really hard. That's what I do.
So we're both really, really looking forward to it. It's going to be so much fun. And as you know, Summer said, it's going to be a transformation. You are going to leave a completely different person with completely different perspectives. And like, it's one thing to talk about this and think about it. And it's another thing to really embody it and go out and live it. And that's what this is about, is going out, really just living who you are and really, really knowing, like deeply knowing that is enough.
Yes.
Like,
that
is enough.
And this is like a full, like, age inclusive, size inclusive, race inclusive, you know, like we just want everybody to know that like, this is, you know, like, don't think that you have to be, I don't know, whatever to come here. Like, it's just, we're obviously like completely, I think we're probably the most non-judgmental people you'll ever meet. And like, that's a really important thing. And I think everyone coming to this is coming in with like no judgments and super inclusive. Everybody is welcome. And like, you're going to be treated like a rock star, like you are, you know, by both of us and by everybody else there. And so, we're just like, we're so thrilled. We're so excited about it. And so go to, reclaimretreat.com to get all of the details and sign up. And again, August 9th is when the early bird runs out. So if you want to save some money so that you can maybe go shopping or buy yourself something nice while you're there, then do that. Do that now. Save some money.
Yep. Yes. They are filling up. So get them while they're hot.
Yeah, get them while they're hot. All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. This was awesome.
Thank
Again,
you.
Maybe we'll have to chat about doing this like on a more regular basis, because I think
man,
it's good.
I mean, we have some really great conversations. I think this is the deep stuff that people are ready to hear. You know what I mean? So it's good stuff.
Yeah, we vibe. We vibe well. Ride or die, girl.
Ride or die, girl.
You know it.
And if you have to watch the videos because then you get a really good taste of how ridiculous we are
how
together.
awkward.
So, yeah, we are just like our first video. Like,
yeah, maybe we can get it right this time.
It's this way.
Let's do it. Okay, you switched just in case it's the other way, so we can actually do it right. Okay, hopefully we got that right.
I think it's this way. I don't know. Either way. This is us attempting high fives, guys, in case you didn't know.
Look how big, look how crazy my arms look when I do that. Okay. Anyone listening to audio is probably tuned out. So with that, thank you guys so much. And thank you, Sarah, for being here. And rock on. We'll talk to you guys soon. And you can get the video for this at summerinnanen.com/FRR-68, episode 68. Thank you.
Rock on. The Reclaim Retreat site. See you guys. Yes.